Hello everybody, my name is Jacob Toronto of ChasingCinema.com. Similar to about a month ago, this is a little bit different because my co-host James Hsu is not in attendance here at AMC Town Square in Las Vegas, Nevada for movie night. Tonight we are celebrating two pictures, Home, the new film from DreamWorks, but the one we're going to concentrate right now is the new comedy from Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart, Get Hard. I think since I've started Chasing Cinema about 2-3 years ago, actually it's going to be 3 years in April, I've reviewed 5 or 6 Kevin Hart movies, and each time I talk about Kevin Hart movies, I say how I love him as a stand-up comedian, how I really appreciate his style of humor, and I understand the fact that the movies that he's getting are just movies that want to capture that really popular stand-up comedian Kevin Hart. Not so much a role or a movie that he'll actually be able to adapt a new character or actually play somebody. He just plays Kevin Hart in these movies, which works for some people. But I feel like if Kevin Hart really wants to turn into an actor, he needs to take on those roles that'll actually allow him to become a different character. Will Ferrell is Will Ferrell. People love him. People think he's hilarious. I unfortunately am not a huge fan of Will Ferrell. I only really like him when he's with John C. Reilly. For instance, Step Brothers or Talladega Nights. So putting these two together, I think you're gonna have an interesting dynamic. I think, and I'm hoping that they have a really great chemistry, similar to Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly. But by the looks of the movie, it seems to really kind of flow on some controversial topics. So I'm really interested in seeing if the movie's going to rise above that, what it's going to say about these topics, about race and stereotypes, and see if it's going to be funny, because there's been a lot of comedies coming out in the since the beginning of 2015, but none of them have been real funny. Hot Tub Time Machine 2 comes to mind. Unfinished Business, which was the first film we gave 0 stars to. So I'm hoping this movie actually gets me to laugh. I am excited. It's about an hour and 40 minutes. Let's go check it out. We just got out of Get Hard, the new film starring Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart. Well, before we actually went into the movie, I said that I was hoping that I got the first film of 2015 that really gets me to laugh, and unfortunately this was not it. The thing is I really liked Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart's chemistry. I thought they worked well together. Unfortunately, this movie is paper thin. And what I mean by that is that it is so shallow and so uncreative that it's hard to really enjoy what's going on. Don't get me wrong, I did laugh a few times. This movie was better than Unfinished Business, but it wasn't much better. I think the major problem with this movie is that it really affirms racism and homophobia. I think that, you know, comedians especially really try to challenge things like homophobia and race, and stand-ups especially really like to challenge controversial topics, turn them on their head, and obviously make jokes about them. But I also think there is a line there, and this movie crosses that line where it kind of becomes offensive, but it's hard to take offensive because you feel like everyone involved was just too dumb about it. And I hate to sound condescending or vicious, but it's one of those things where it's too dumb for its own good. They just weren't even really smart about it going in, so it's hard to even call it offensive. And I think the movie affirms these stereotypes. We have the Hispanic gardeners. We have these gangsters that can't understand the stock market, and all the ladies in these gangs are twerking. I mean, just these stereotypes that are pretty at this point in time, just kind of out of date and just kind of really ridiculous. You know, the whole movie's about a 2-hour joke about dropping the soap, and I think the word rape and sexual assaults get thrown in there about 30 times. It just gets really old. I wish these two were teaming up on a movie that actually had some layers and actually allowed them to tell a better story. I mean, teaming them up I could tell was a smart idea, even though I just in my head I think of 2 executives talking, saying, we need this comedy, which people can we get? Oh, let's get Will Ferrell, he's really funny. Let's get Kevin Hart, he's really popular and new. And that actually works. Surprisingly, instead of it just being a bad mashup, they worked well together. It's just they should have had a better story to work along with. Overall, I was pretty disappointed in this movie. I didn't see much good out of it. I didn't laugh very much. Like I said, there's a few points, especially when Kevin Hart tells his jail story, and he actually basically references the plot of Boys in the Hood. But overall, I was disappointed. If you want to read my full review, where I go a little bit more in depth, and I also pay homage to Roger Ebert, you could go to chasingcinema.com/gethard, and of course watch our video review that we've done for the other movie that came out tonight, Home, from DreamWorks. If you go to youtube.com/chasingcinema, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and make sure you're here next week with me and my co-host James Shue and the whole gang as we watch Furious 7, a movie that I think is going to break over $1 billion, and I think it's going to be one of the biggest releases of the year. If you need to be anywhere next Thursday, it needs to be here. I'll see you guys next week. I'm Jacob Toronto of Chasing Cinema.